For 15 years, Maya was seen as just a housekeeper, but that night, she became the Ashford family's most powerful weapon. Maya was listening at the door for the first time. What was being discussed inside was so horrifying that she struggled to breathe. She had just learned the patron family's darkest secret, and there was no turning back. Welcome to Stories of Black Lives. Before we begin these powerful stories about respect, justice, and hope, please let us know in the comments which country you're watching from today. If you want to see more stories like this, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like our video. The Ashford mansion in Atlanta's wealthy Buckhead neighborhood looked perfect from the outside. White marble columns rose toward the sky, while crystal chandeliers inside scattered the sparkle of centuries-old wealth. In its manicured garden, every flower was expertly placed, every bush trimmed to geometric perfection. Every detail on the exterior facade proclaimed the Ashford family's social status. But Maya Jefferson knew that the darkest secrets were hidden beneath the most brilliant surfaces. She just never thought she would learn this so strikingly, never imagined she would face the most horrifying truth of her life. Maya Jefferson started work at 5 in the morning. This strong 42-year-old woman had maintained the same routine with her own unique discipline for 15 years. She would quietly approach the villa gate in her gray Honda Civic, politely nod to security guard Marcus as a greeting, and enter through the servants' entrance in the back garden. Her first task was to start the large espresso machine in the kitchen, then prepare the dark coffee that Richard Ashford loved. Then she would brew Victoria Ashford's special tea and pour 16-year-old Cameron's organic fruit juice into a glass cup. Every movement was calculated, every step silent. Maya's presence was felt so delicately that family members would sometimes act as if she wasn't in the room, discussing their most private matters without ever thinking Maya could hear them. This carelessness and indifference would seal their fate that horrible night. Richard Ashford was the owner of the city's largest real estate empire. This 45-year-old man, with his cold gray eyes and always perfectly combed silver hair, was one of Atlanta's most powerful businessmen. The awards hanging on the walls of his office told the story of the magnitude of the projects he controlled. But Maya had been seeing Richard's fits of rage, his shouting at employees, his threatening competitors over the phone for years. This man had mastered the art of crushing everyone who stood before him. His wife Victoria was the undisputed queen of high society. At 43, with makeup that never smudged and always seen in expensive clothes, this woman was famous for her coldness. Maya knew intimately how Victoria treated the servants. A chair sitting slightly crooked, a glass not being in its exact place would bring Victoria's sharp looks and harsh words. For this woman, people were just like furniture, merely objects of utility. Their 16-year-old son Cameron had grown up like a perfect copy of his parents. Having studied at private schools, believing he deserved the best of everything, displaying typical rich kid attitudes, this young man had never shown Maya any respect. When Maya cleaned the room, Cameron would turn his music to full volume, boast about their wealth to friends in front of Maya, and make demeaning remarks about servants. From the outside, they painted a perfect family picture. They would pose on magazine covers, smile at charity organizations, and act like the ideal family in front of cameras. But Maya saw their real faces behind this mask every day. That gloomy Wednesday evening, Maya was late. Her daughter Zara's school meeting had lasted longer than expected, and discussions with teachers about Zara's university applications had taken an hour longer than normal. Maya had arrived home exactly 2 hours later than her usual time. Thinking the family was at dinner, she quietly entered through the kitchen. As she put on her gloves and started washing dishes, she heard loud conversations coming from the dining room. Normally, she wore headphones while working, but that night her headphone's battery had died, and she had forgotten the charger at home. "Dad, will there really be no problems? I can't sleep at nights." Cameron's voice carried deep anxiety, as if he had been thinking about this matter for days. Richard's voice was cold and decisively determined as always. "Cameron, how many times have I told you? That kid doesn't matter to anyone anyway. His family is poor. No one will hear their voice. Kids like that die every day in this city." Maya slowly placed the plate in her hands into the sink. Her fingers began to tremble. Which child were they talking about? Why were they speaking so coldly? Victoria's voice, as always, was as cold as a glacier and calculated. Besides, that car was going too fast according to the police. Classic traffic accident. That's all. No one knows Cameron was behind the wheel that night, and no one will know. Maya's heart felt like it would stop. Her knees began to shake. Traffic accident? Cameron? This conversation was too horrifying to be real. Cameron's voice now carried uncontrollable panic. But Mom, that kid died. I killed a child. Late at night my head was completely messed up. I was going fast. I didn't even see him. Richard slammed his fist on the table harshly. Shut up, Cameron. You will not speak like this again. You weren't anywhere that night. We were home, watching a family movie, remember? I made you repeat this to me 100 times. Maya approached the door with trembling hands. This conversation was too real and horrifying to be a dream. Victoria continued while maintaining their composure. The police already think our driver James is guilty. The poor man accepted responsibility without even understanding what happened. We gave him enough money too. He'll stay quiet for a few years, then get out. But James is innocent. He didn't do anything. Cameron's voice was cracking, as if his conscience was tearing him apart. Richard hit the table a second time, harder. James has worked loyally for us for 20 years. He took his money. He'll serve a few years, get out, retire. Quite simple. But you will not spend the rest of your life in prison. You carry the Ashford surname. Maya could no longer breathe. Her lungs felt compressed. James Morrison was the family's 67-year-old driver, a man with 3 children and 5 grandchildren, who always treated Maya with respect, greeting her with "Good morning, Miss Maya," a sweet-tongued man. They were sending this innocent man to prison for a child's death. Victoria added with composure, as if giving cooking recipes. The media is already forgetting the issue anyway. A kid from Riverside. These types of news have short lives. No one will even remember in a week. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Riverside was the neighborhood where she lived too. The neighborhood where Zara went to school, where neighbors' children played, where she spent her own childhood. That, just a kid, might be someone she knew. Maybe one of Zara's classmates. Maybe one of the children she saw playing basketball in the neighborhood. Cameron spoke again, his voice even more anxious this time. But what about security cameras? There must be cameras at that intersection. Richard answered with a smile, as if making a chess move. What cameras, son? There was a power outage that night, remember? What a strange coincidence, wasn't it? All the cameras weren't working at that time. Victoria added, the mayor's wife Emily is a very good friend of mine. Deleting records, arranging power outage reports, all necessary procedures have already been done. Money opens every door. Maya couldn't stand it anymore. Her heart was beating so fast she was afraid they would hear it. She quietly returned to the kitchen and noticed her hands were trembling uncontrollably. She had worked in this house for 15 years. She trusted these people. She saw them as family. But now she faced cold-blooded killers, liars, and monsters who sent innocent people to prison. That night on her way home, Maya started crying inside her own car. Her head was in chaos. Her hands were still shaking. Zara greeted her at the door with concern. Mom, you're very late. Is everything okay? Your face looks very pale. Maya looked at her daughter. Zara was also 16 years old, just like Cameron. But what was the difference between them? Just the family they were born into? Cameron had taken a child's life and felt no remorse. Zara helped the elderly neighbor lady after school every day and tutored small children. Yes, sweetie, my work just took longer than normal today. But Maya was lying. Nothing was okay. Her world had been turned upside down. She spent that night without sleeping at all. Staring at the ceiling, she went over the conversation she had heard again and again in her mind. The next morning when she went to work, her eyes were swollen and her face was pale. She tried to act as if everything was normal. The Ashford family was also having breakfast as if nothing had happened. Richard was reading his newspaper. Victoria was gossiping with her high society friends on the phone. Cameron was listening to music and sharing photos on Instagram. While Maya was washing dishes in the kitchen, Victoria came to her side. Well-groomed as always, cold as always. Maya, we're throwing a big party this weekend. The senator's wife is coming. Extra cleaning will be needed. We won't call anyone else. You'll handle it alone. We need trustworthy people at times like these. Of course, Mrs. Ashford. As always. Victoria looked her up and down, her eyes as if reading Maya's mind. You're a very quiet person, Maya. This is a very good quality. Some people talk too much, get themselves into trouble. You never did that. Maya bowed her head. I understand, ma'am. Victoria added with a cold smile. I'm sure you understand. You've been working here for 15 years. You've proven you're trustworthy. I'm sure you won't break this trust. This was an open threat. Maya should have been scared. But the growing anger and sense of justice inside her was much stronger than fear. That afternoon, when she went to pick up Zara from school, she experienced another big shock. After school, children and families were talking about a child's funeral. Marcus was such a good kid, one teacher was telling another. He was only 15 years old. He participated in math Olympiads, was the star of the basketball team. His family is so sad. I don't know how they'll recover from this loss. Maya felt like her heart would jump out of her chest as she approached the teacher. Excuse me, which child are you talking about? The teacher answered with sad eyes, Marcus Williams. He died in a traffic accident last week. The driver who hit him fled. They caught the driver, but it's a very tragic incident. Marcus was such a bright child. He was going to go to university on a full scholarship. Maya's legs trembled. Marcus Williams, 15 years old. Exactly the child Zara had mentioned. The bright child who played on the basketball team, participated in math Olympiads, was his family's only hope. That evening at home, Maya researched Marcus's news on the internet. When she saw the family photos, she couldn't hold back her tears. Mother Dorothy Williams was a nurse. Father Robert Williams worked in construction. There were 2 younger siblings. The deep pain in the father's eyes, the mother's broken expression broke Maya's heart into pieces. This family had been completely shattered. The news read, according to police statements, James Morrison, who worked as a driver for the Ashford family, has confessed and been taken into custody. Morrison had been working for the same family for 20 years. Maya covered her face with her hands. James Morrison's photo was also there. His old, tired face and eyes filled with deep sadness. An innocent man who had served loyally to a patron family that sacrificed his own life to protect their children. The next day at work, Richard was talking on the phone. Yes, Jerry, I've given the necessary instructions to James's lawyer too. He'll make a plea bargain, serve 5 or 6 years, get out. This is the best outcome for us. We won't even go to court. Maya froze in the kitchen. These people hadn't just killed Marcus. They had also ruined James's life. And they were doing this without feeling any remorse. That evening while having dinner with Zara, her daughter asked with a sad voice, Mom, did you know Marcus Williams? Maya swallowed. Why do you ask, sweetie? The school established a fund in his memory. We learned that his mother is currently unemployed. His father was also injured in a construction accident and can't work. They're in a very difficult situation. Marcus was the family's only hope. He was going to go to university on a full scholarship and become an engineer. Now they can't even afford the school expenses of his younger siblings. Maya's heart was shattered into pieces. This child wasn't just a life. He was a family's future, their hope. Marcus's mother Dorothy is such a good woman, Zara continued. She came to school and thanked all of us. She said she wasn't angry at anyone. She just had hope for justice. She said, the person who killed my son will pay his penalty. Justice will prevail. Maya couldn't sleep that night. Marcus's mother had hope for justice. But the justice system had already been bought. The real killer would live freely while an innocent man would go to prison. The next morning when she went to work, she had made her decision. She would not turn a blind eye to this injustice. Maya first researched James's lawyer. A young man named Michael Torres, who worked at a state-supported law office, was really trying to fight for James, but had no evidence in his hands. Maya sent him an anonymous message. I have very important information about the James Morrison case. Let's meet. Michael initially received it with suspicion, but agreed to meet when he understood Maya's seriousness. They met at a small cafe in the city center. Maya had gone without any evidence, only telling the truth. These are very serious accusations. The Ashford family is one of the most powerful families in this city. Do you have proof? Maya shook her head. Right now I only have what I heard. But I can tell you word for word what was discussed that night. Michael took careful notes, but knew that Maya's testimony alone wouldn't be enough in court. Unfortunately, for it to be accepted in court, audio recordings are needed or other physical evidence. When Maya returned home, she had clarified her plan. She would gather evidence, no matter the cost. The next day at work, she put her phone on voice recording mode and placed it in the inner pocket of her jacket. The Ashford family usually evaluated the day during dinner. Maya took a strategic position in the kitchen and began recording their conversations. The first 2 days she didn't get much. On the third day, Cameron said he had fought with his friends at school, and Richard sternly warned him. "Cameron, I told you, you'll keep a low profile. We need to avoid attracting attention at times like these. Don't cause any incidents." On the fourth day, the opportunity Maya had been waiting for came. Victoria was talking to someone on the phone. "Yes, Carol, James's situation is completely under control. His lawyer is also the man we recommended. He'll make a plea bargain, get 3 or 4 years, get out. Everything is going according to plan." Maya felt her hand trembling, but continued recording. At dinner, Richard asked Victoria, "Did you talk to the mayor this week?" Victoria nodded comfortably. "Yes. All procedures regarding camera records have been completed. No trace remains. It's as if that night never happened." Cameron also added, "Dad, Marcus's family is collecting funds around the school area. I feel really bad when I see them." Richard laughed coldly. "Are you feeling guilty, son? Don't forget, you were home that night. We were watching a movie. You'll engrave this story in your head well." After getting enough recordings, Maya met with Michael Torres again. When he listened to the recordings, the young lawyer's face completely changed. "This is incredible. This is exactly what we need. But Maya, you'll have to tell the way you obtained these in court. This could be very dangerous for you." Maya was determined. Marcus's family deserves justice. James shouldn't go to prison for such a crime. Michael nodded. "Okay, but first we need to ensure your safety. These people are very powerful." After that night, Maya quit her job. She told the Ashford family she was sick as an excuse. In reality, she was preparing to make the most difficult and important decision of her life. An application was made to the court. It was announced that new evidence had emerged that would prove James Morrison's innocence. The Ashford family wasn't initially worried because they were completely confident that the system would protect them. But when Maya took the witness stand on the court day, Richard's face turned completely white. Victoria was looking at Maya in shock. Maya spoke in front of the microphone with all her courage, in an unwavering voice. "Your Honor, I have worked as a housekeeper in the Ashford family's home for 15 years. Last week I accidentally overheard them planning Marcus Williams's murder and framing James Morrison." A deep silence fell over the courtroom. Maya continued. "Richard Ashford knows that his son Cameron hit and fled from Marcus Williams while driving. But to cover this up, he framed innocent James Morrison and is sending him to prison." When the audio recordings were played in court, all of the Ashford family's lies collapsed one by one. Screams rose from the courtroom. Victoria jumped up and screamed frantically. "Nothing this woman says is true. She's just a housekeeper. She's resentful toward us." But Maya answered calmly, with pride. "Yes, I am just a housekeeper. But I can also be a servant to Marcus Williams's family. I can also be a servant to justice." After examining the recordings, the court panel decided to immediately release James Morrison. Cameron Ashford was arrested, and Richard and Victoria were also taken into custody for complicity. When leaving the courthouse, Marcus's mother Dorothy hugged Maya and thanked her with tears. "You brought justice for my son. You risked your life for a family you never knew. I don't know how to thank you." Maya wiped her eyes. No mother should lose her child like this. No innocent person should be punished for someone else's sin. James Morrison also hugged Maya and thanked her. "You saved me, Maya. You gave me my life back." Maya smiled. "I just did the right thing, Uncle James." After the trial, Maya's life completely changed. Wealthy families now saw her as untrustworthy because Maya reminded them that their secrets weren't safe with her. Finding work took months. She had money troubles, struggled to pay her bills. But society saw her as a hero. Local newspapers had made her story their front page. Television channels wanted interviews. Civil rights organizations supported her. Most importantly, Marcus's family had become close friends with Maya. Dorothy Williams visited Maya every week, gave her moral support, and together they visited Marcus's grave. One day Dorothy told Maya, "Maya, You didn't just save my son. You also saved our faith in justice. Marcus's death wasn't in vain because you fought in his name. James Morrison also never left Maya's side after being released. The old man came to Maya's house every day to take care of garden work and gave Zara math lessons. Miss Maya, James would say, you saved me from prison, but you actually gave me back my honor. I was innocent, and you proved it. Zara was proud of her mother, but also worried. Mom, you're a real hero, but the price of this was very heavy. Maya answered her daughter with a smile. Sweetie, sometimes doing the right thing isn't easy, but the guilt of not doing it is much heavier. Months later, Maya finally found a new job, this time not for a wealthy family, but working for a civil rights organization serving her own community. Her job was to support families experiencing injustice. Maya was no longer just cleaning, she was defending people's rights. On her first day at work, she was met with a big surprise in the office. Dorothy Williams also worked there. Marcus's mother had dedicated herself to the fight for justice after her son's death. Maya, Dorothy screamed and hugged her. We'll work together here, in Marcus's memory, for other families experiencing injustice. Maya answered with teary eyes. Dorothy, this is wonderful. Marcus's spirit will be happy. In court, Cameron Ashford received a 15-year prison sentence. For the first time in his life, the young man was experiencing real remorse in prison. In a letter he wrote to his mother Victoria, he said, Mom, Maya was right. I acted like a monster. Marcus's family won't forgive me, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for this mistake. Richard and Victoria Ashford also received 8 years each for complicity. The media saw this case as the victory of an ordinary person who stood up against wealthy injustice. But what was important to Maya wasn't the media, it was justice prevailing. A year after the court decision, Maya's story became a book. The book, titled Silent Voice, A Housekeeper's Fight for Justice, made it to the bestseller list nationwide. Maya donated the income from the book to the education fund established in Marcus's memory. At the book launch, Maya spoke. This book isn't my story, it's the story of everyone who has been silenced. It's Marcus Williams's story, James Morrison's story, everyone who has experienced injustice. Zara got into university and decided to study law. Mom, she told Maya, I want to fight injustice like you, but I'll fight in the courtroom. Maya watched her daughter with pride. Zara's life had changed, but for the better. She now knew what justice and doing the right thing meant. 2 years later, Maya became director at the Civil Rights Organization. On her first day at the office, she saw the new plaque on her door, Maya Jefferson, Director of Justice. She couldn't hold back her tears. That evening on her way home, she passed by the old Ashford mansion. The house was for sale, its garden neglected, its windows dark. Maya stopped her car and looked at the house. The woman who was once invisible here was now a justice warrior known by the entire city. She took out her phone and called Dorothy. Dorothy, shall we visit Marcus's grave? Of course, Maya. I'm always ready. At the cemetery, they stood by Marcus's headstone. Maya touched the stone and whispered, Marcus, justice has prevailed. You didn't die in vain. Dorothy added, and thanks to Maya, you'll never be forgotten. Maya now gives conferences at universities every week. She teaches young people not to remain silent in the face of injustice. At her last conference, she had said, those who remain silent in the face of injustice become partners in injustice. The powerful hope you'll stay quiet. But when you speak up, their power crumbles. Maya Jefferson is no longer just a housekeeper. She is the voice of justice, the shield of the powerless, the symbol of hope. Her story gives courage to thousands of people. This story shows us that power doesn't come from money or status. Power comes from the courage to do what's right. Maya Jefferson was invisible for 15 years. But the night she revealed the truth, she became the most powerful woman the entire city had seen. Marcus Williams's memory lives on. James Morrison is free. The Ashford family is serving their sentence. And Maya Jefferson continues to fight injustice. So what about you? When you see injustice, are you ready to be brave like Maya? Or will you choose to remain silent? Remember, sometimes the biggest changes start from the most unexpected places. Like Maya, you too can make a difference. You too can stand on the right side of history.